Hey guys, it's Steve Ground here, and welcome to my episode 6 review of Recreators. And well, this week was pretty insane. But first, before I start talking about this week's episode, I want to backtrack and talk a little bit about last week's episode. So if you want to skip to this episode's review, there will be a timestamp somewhere in the video or in the description. Now, just to talk a little bit about last week's episode, it's so refreshing to not have a completely dumb government in a fantasy anime. To be honest, I was completely surprised that the government actually took action, because usually we never see them, or if we do, they're completely oblivious to the situation that's happening in their world. Furthermore, it's also nice to see that the government is treating the creations with respect, in the sense that they know that the creations are extremely powerful and that they can easily destroy everything, so it's best to be on their good side than on their bad side, even though attacking them first probably wasn't the best idea. So I do enjoy that we have more allies to the team besides just other creations. Now we also get introduced to the mech kid, which is apparently just like Shinji from Evangelion. I wouldn't know since I actually haven't watched Eva yet, surprising right? But yeah, he's definitely an interesting character, and I do wonder how we're actually going to see him get motivated in this plot, since he doesn't seem to care what's happening at all, especially in this week's episode where all the creations are gathering and starting to fight each other. He's off flirting with some girls. Now to lead into this week's episode, at the end of last week we had Sota basically remember who the MU princess is, and seems to be the creation of the girl who killed herself in the first episode, which makes sense for what we know so far about the military uniform princess. Now it seems that Sota and this girl was friends, but other than that we have no information about the relationship, but it seems that Sota is hiding something, since in this week, right after Sota remembers who MUP is, Celestia came by and he didn't tell her shit. I'm not quite sure if he didn't tell her because he was scared to, or he knows something about the situation he can't tell others, and hopefully it's the latter, because it's annoying seeing a character who knows something vital to the plot but doesn't say shit. Now we also get introduced to the rest of the cast, being the old man from a few episodes back, which we've seen a bit more of, and the final character being the evil schoolgirl who seems like she's a villain in her own series, and her powers are actually very interesting. From what I got from the episode, it seemed that if she makes you believe that something is a lie, that lie becomes truth, and depending on the situation, like earlier in this episode, that lie can come alive. Honestly, that type of ability is really cool and pretty OP against those who doesn't know how it works. Her character also reminds me of Ogi from the Monogatari series. I don't know if anyone else felt that way. I personally find her really entertaining. Just the way she presents herself and her dialogue in this episode makes me believe she might be the best girl of the series. Now besides that, we get the main meat and conflict of this episode, which is the true meaning of justice. This conflict is mainly surrounded around Alice, as we understand a bit more how she feels in this situation of the creators and created. She believes that if you're evil and do evil deeds, you must be killed, while the evil squirrel girl twists the ideology by saying killing in general can be considered evil despite the intention, and that Alice's justice can also be not justice at all, which leads deeper into how Alice is refusing to accept the reality that her world is just for entertainment, and that the creators are not all powerful gods that she depicts them to be. And I brought this up in a previous video that I wouldn't know how I would feel if I was in a situation of figuring out that everything I'm doing right now, going to school, making YouTube videos, talking to friends, was all some sort of story just to entertain another world. And I think Alice's character is the one to reject this notion, or else she feels like her entire purpose and all the suffering in her world is just pointless. Like at that point, what is the reason for her to live? Now this leads to the main fight scenes in this episode, where it ends with Celestia versus Alice and the old man Blitztalker, amazing name by the way, versus Mamika, who finally found her resolve in this conflict. I predict that Mamika will either switch sides or go solo in this conflict by being the neutral ground between both sides. So overall, this episode was pretty darn good, and probably my favorite episode of the series thus far. The fight scenes and animations was pretty good in this episode, and of course combined with the godly music made the scenes even better. Also enjoyed the development of the characters this episode, and I have been seeing a few complaints that the plot isn't moving very fast in this series, and I do have to remind people that not only is this a 22 episode series, but we also have a pretty big cast for this series as well, so we do need to have time for these characters to develop throughout the series properly, rather than having static characters who are the same the entire way through, or we just don't get to know much about the characters at all. But yeah guys, let me know what you thought of this week's episode, and also who's your favorite character of the cast thus far. Like I said earlier, I do like the villain schoolgirl a lot, but Blitztalker, while we don't know much about him as of right now, may be in the running for just another really cool character. If you enjoyed this video and want more content like this, then make sure to subscribe or follow, and also make sure to follow me on Twitter just for updates regarding videos and such, and also just for other randomness I may tweet as well. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next week for episode 7 of Recreators.